from various institutes and universities. The topic for today's webinar is CRISPR-Cas9 mediated genome editing towards crop improvement. Dear all, as you know that the Department of Biotechnology is NBA accredited and is undergoing BTech Biotech course since 2002 and MTech course since 2010. It is an authorized research center for PhD course affiliated through AKTU, Lucknow. The department is actively engaged in research activities in the field of biotechnology and related areas, including 2 funded research projects. We have been providing 92% placements to our BTech Biotech students since last several years. So now let's proceed with the webinar with few instructions. There will be 2 IDs of the speaker with the name Dr. Praveen Awasthi. And for viewing the slides, you will have to pin the presenter screen. So generally there are questions asked during the webinar that we are not able to see the screen. So for that, I would like to just tell you is you have to pin the presenter screen, then you will be able to see that. Please keep your audio and video off during the presentation. And for getting the certificates of this webinar, you need to fill the feedback form, which will be shared to you in the chat window after the lecture is over. So Mr. Priyaranjan Kumar is going to share you the link after the webinar and also during the webinar. All the participants are requested to please keep your mic off. And camera and mic off, please. In the beginning also, I have requested all of you to put your mic and camera off because otherwise you won't be able to listen to the speaker. So this is a request. This is a humble request from my side to all of you. I hope you will listen to it. So all the questions, if you have queries, you can write your queries in the chat window and that will be taken at the end of the lecture by the speaker. So you can write your questions on the chat window. Hope everyone, Mr. Javed, I am able to see your screen. So please don't do that. Please mute yourself. So now let's proceed with a brief introduction of Dr. Praveen Awasthi. Dr. Praveen completed his BTech in biotechnology from IMS Engineering College, Ghaziabad in the year 2007. He worked as Senior Research Fellow at CSIR, Indian Institute of Integrative Medicine, and then as a project scientist at National Agri-Food Biotechnology Institute. In 2018, he completed his PhD in biotechnology from CSIR, Indian Institute of Integrative Medicine, Jammu, India. He has more than 25 publications in reputed national and international journals and 2 books with authorship, namely Fruit Crop Improvement Using CRISPR-Cas9 System and Secondary Metabolites Pathway Genes from Coleus Forks coli. Presently, he is working as a postdoctoral fellow in Czech Academy of Science, Institute of Plant Molecular Biology, Biology Center, Ses Budajovice, Czech Republic. Thank you very much, Dr. Praveen, for sparing your valuable time for us. Now over to Dr. Praveen for today's presentation.
Yeah, thank you for introducing me, ma'am. And I remember still you teaching us when I was in BTech, and it's feel very no, feeling nostalgia, feeling that I'm just presenting in front of all those faculty and teachers where I have learned a lot of things. So it's been a great thing for me, and a good afternoon to all of the person who have joined this webinar, and hope you will gain some nice things from this webinar. And I'm now just sharing my screen, and is my voice is all clear to all and everything is fine? Hello? And
Yes, we can hear you properly, sir. No problem.
Yeah, your voice is clear, Praveen.
Okay. So just I'm moving to my presentation. Yeah. So can everybody see my presentation? And
No.
I think,
No, presentation is not visible.
okay. Just let me see this and stop sharing. I will do once again. Okay. Present now. It's going window and this. Okay. Yeah. So I think now it will be okay.
Yes, it
So
is
just
visible now.
hmm.
Yeah, we can proceed.
So now just we go. Okay. So very good afternoon to all the attendees and research scholars, scientists, and students. And today topic for webinar is basically CRISPR-Cas9 mediated genome editing towards crop improvement. As you know that after like transgenics were there, recombinant DNA technology was there for improving the crop quality. Introduction of this CRISPR-Cas9 in 2013 in plants had made a great revolution in context to development of non-genetic or non-GMO crops, which have greater acceptability worldwide. So just moving with this, first thing I want to just describe about what is genome editing. So genome editing is basically a type of genetic engineering where uh, where we edit the DNA, edit the genomic loci in different plants of a living organism by making an insertion, deletion, and these are done with the help of engineered nucleases. And previously, before CRISPR-Cas9, there were like zinc finger nucleases you may have heard about. After that, it comes the TALEN, and the most advanced in the recent one is CRISPR-Cas. So what is basically zinc finger nucleases? Zinc finger nucleases were that we have DNA binding domains in zinc finger nuclease, which are fused to this fork enzyme, as can you see that. When this DNA binding domain are fused to fork enzyme, and this DNA binding domain recognize the DNA sequences of the nucleotide where the deletion has to be done. So that's how it's work. And when these two bind on different strand, and when these two fork enzyme dimerizes, it lead to the cleavage of DNA strand. But it was very tedious to design this motif, and it was a very cumbersome job. And then it come later to the TALEN. But TALEN also, the problem remains the same, with much more identification of finding the targets. And but in 2013, when CRISPR was first discovered, was shown in plants, had emerged as one of the vibrant field and revolutionized the whole idea of genetic engineering in field of science. So what is this CRISPR-Cas9? Basically, this, as you have known that when we are studies in books in our graduations and post-graduation, we have heard about that host immunity of E. coli against bacteriophage. So we were studying long back, and this is basically an immune system of an E. coli or bacteria against the bacteriophage. And it was and this CRISPR-Cas9 had started its discovery in 2007. So now just I would like to go to, before starting with CRISPR-Cas, just for the student and all this is a very beautiful video explaining about what is CRISPR and how it has been discovered and work. And I would like to share this video with the student. And hope, I think what the problem is not working here or something is issue. Just wait. I need to do like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Dr. Avasti, I think that audio is off somehow. Please check.
Audio is off.
Yeah, in the
Yeah.
shared video which you are showing.
Okay, just let me check it out. But my voice is audible or not?
Your voice is audible, but that audio is not coming from the video.
Okay. I don't know. Just hold on here. So if such in case, then I will start. I don't think so. Uh, Hello, if voice is not audible, then I'm just trying to explain it to you all, like what they have done, or should I go from the previously if it's not audible for all the students?
Sir, your voice is audible, sir. But if at all there is a video, I
Okay.
don't think you can see
It will
that.
work. Acha, if you are able to see the video, then I will explain my video from the
The
starting.
video, yeah.
Please, sir. Sir,
You take your voice, you make your voice audible, and
video.
through the video you can speak. Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
just
that will be fine.
yeah. So just starting with the video, when we talk about what is this CRISPR? This CRISPR is basically a short palindromic repeats. Like you say that what is a palindromic repeats in case of CRISPR? It's like here there will be and ATGC sequences, and the his repeat will be on other side. It will be it's never will be an odd and even, and like it's like GCA, then the palindromic will be from the here repeat sequences. So how this repeat sequence were discovered? This were discovered in E. coli, in Streptococcus, and firstly was in Streptococcus pyogenes. It was discovered. These are present in the genome of E. coli, and they are separated by some small distance, and these small spaces are known as interspaced. These are not unique and not palindromic. These are, and when this whole thing is known as CRISPR, and when scientists discovered that there's these small spaces which are shown in this color, they were matching with the viroid bacteriophage which infected the bacteria. So what happened, how people discovered that it's basically a immune system of a bacteria, how it's worked. Apart from this CRISPR region, it also contain on the upstream Cas gene. What the Cas gene? Cas gene produces Cas protein, and Cas protein basically have helicases activity and nucleases activity. Helicases unwinding of DNA, and nucleases the cutting of DNA. So when an bacteriophage enters the plant, how enters the cell on bacteria, how bacteria act. So suppose it insert this DNA. So this phage spacer DNA has been inserted here. So what happened? This Cas9 gene basically creates Cas protein, synthesize Cas protein, and this corresponding spacer DNA, which along with this palindromic synthesize CRISPR RNA, and they both make an RNA protein complex, and then this foreign DNA is being moved into this Cas9, and this Cas9 cleave this foreign DNA of the virus and prevent the cell from bacteriophage infection. But what happens if it has a spacer whose CRISPR is not present here, whose spacer is not present? In that case, there are different class of Cas protein, which secrete different type of Cas protein, and it chop DNA and insert that spacer into new location, so that when in future bacteriophage will enter, it will able to fight for that bacteriophage. This is what basically and study in E. coli how E. coli or defends itself from the bacteriophage, or it was as we know this CRISPR discovered by Jennifer Doudna and Streptococcus pyogenes. So how that bacteria defends itself from infection. So scientists thought that why not to use this CRISPR-Cas9 immune system in towards making genome editing in plant science. So these are basically Jennifer Doudna from University of Berkeley and Ina Muller-Conconcia from the Vienna Biocenter. They basically work towards discovery of this CRISPR-Cas9. So what is basically a CRISPR consists of various type of Cas9. One type is basically Cas9, CRISPR associated protein 9. It has basically two N. These are two nucleotide nuclease domain which cut the double-stranded RNA. This from double-stranded DNA, one from this strand and one from this strand, and this basically create CRISPR RNA. And this is basically a tracer RNA which is also needed. What do tracer RNA? Tracer RNA direct the CRISPR RNA towards the targeted site. But what is required that we have different CRISPR RNA, then tracer RNA, and then protein. So if you want to do the editing, it need lot of complications. So what scientists did, if we instead of this spacer, if we choose our target gene which we need to target here, and we can join this with artificial nucleotides, and this chimera is formed, which is known as tracer RNA chimera, and in short form we also known it as sgRNA. sgRNA, when we say that, it means that it made of two components, which is CRISPR RNA and one is tracer RNA. CRISPR RNA contain the target to the loci in a genome which cut the gene, and tracer RNA also direct to us. So that's what they discovered. And when they discovered this, modified this enzyme and see that it revolutionized the whole field. So how this Cas9s work in genome editing? We designed this sgRNA here, and its complement sequence is present in the genome. So what this Cas9 moves to that particular region, and these are basically two nucleases activity domain present in Cas9. So they chop the DNA, double strand break. So when this double strand break is made, so then possibilities, then when the double strand break is, a mutation is happen because cell repair through non-homology and joining methods inside mechanism of humans. So that lead to mutation, and when mutation will happen here, it lead to the disruption of the function of a gene. So that's how we create knockout using CRISPR-Cas. So this is one of the important aspects of CRISPR-Cas. And suppose you want to do knock-in, you want to insert particular gene in this region. So when double strand break is there, you supply a homology arm. So it will insert this in region, and it will insert your desired gene in particular locus. And this is known as knock-in. So these are the two important aspects which you can do with CRISPR-Cas9. You can mutate the gene, you can insert a particular fragment of gene in a particular loci, and rather than you can also do carry out the point mutation. And so this is one of the important aspects which I want other to taken care of. So hope this is will be very clear to you all. And next I will move forward to other. After this video, it will be a very interactive video which will help you to understand. So as you know that this CRISPR was firstly, and you can say, a kind of immune system of a bacterial system. So in bacterial genome, these CRISPR locus are present, which are regulated by some Cas gene. As you've seen in previous video, this Cas gene produce Cas protein, and this CRISPR RNA produce chimeras of sgRNA, which in combine act upon that. So next, when it was discovered from there, I want to show you how this CRISPR-Cas9 mediate defense in prokaryotic in a better way. Like if an sgRNA enters here, this Cas9 will make Cas protein, this repeat make this CRISPR RNA make this pre-CRISPR RNA, which are transcribed by processing, and they will then they form a complex with Cas protein, and then finally lead to the disruption of the DNA inserted by that. So which was previously explained there and in previous slides. So hope this would be clear to you all. So next, moving to what are these Cas protein. As I tell you, there are different types of Cas protein, and new days by time and time, new discoveries are happening. New types of Cas protein are discovered. So basically, there are two types of Cas gene, which are called CRISPR associated proteins, class 1 and class 2. When we talk of Cas9, which is very commonly used in genome editing and knock-in, it's fall basically to the type 2. And what we are presently using in scientific field are basically class 2 enzymes, not class 1. Because one of the drawbacks in class 1 is that it is the association of multiple proteins. Lot of protein associate, and then they carry out the activity. So in a development technology, to amalgam so many protein to carry out a mutation it's really a tedious job. Whereas in class 2 you have single protein only, and you provide the sgRNA and it will cleave the DNA. So type 2 Cas9 is basically a bulk protein, and it's around 4.5 kb gene, and it's a big gene, and it's create double strand break. And recently after Cas9 there is another upgradation in which is known as Cas12a or CPF1. It's also cleave the double strand DNA. But what the difference between CPF and Cas9? The difference that it's basically a very big protein, and this is a small protein, and it only requires the CRISPR RNA, no big tracer RNA. And second thing, Cas9 require PAM region called NGG, which is basically a signature motif to identify the SGR to target. And this CPF require AT rich region like TTT or ATT, those region. So these are the two different aspects. Apart from that, now Cas13 is there, also evolved, which is known for cleaving single-stranded RNA. You can say when we do the cleaving through RNAi. So this can be done through CRISPR also. So these are variants, types of CRISPR which are being presently, and this field is growing again and again widely, and more and more reports are coming about types of CRISPR evolve. Like suppose you want to silent a gene, not by mutation, so that Cas9 is also there. So I will tell you later on about this story. So I think hope this is clear what a class 1 and class 2, and this is the basically most commonly used CRISPR for genome editing, class 2. So what is how using CRISPR-Cas9 knock-in and knock-out is done? So when I say that this is basically a target guide region which you need to design. Suppose you want to target particular gene A. So you have the sequence of whole gene A. In whole gene A where NGG is there, upstream of this you choose as an basically a target gene with some parameters are there for designing this guide RNA in context to what is the GC content is there, and hairpin and RNA folding, all those things. And then after that, what you do, these sgRNA synthesize, and this Cas9 is with this Cas9 they are delivered to the plant system through agrobacterium mediated or through RNA protein complexes, like you isolate the protein of Cas9 and then mix with sgRNA and then deliver through protoplasm. Then what will happen? This guide RNA will create double-stranded break. Double-strand break for one of the important aspect I want to say that how this double-strand break is there. So when we talk of this double-strand break, these two in this NGG from the 3rd to 4th nucleotide, these Cas9 make double-strand break, and these double-strand break are basically made by two nucleotide cleavage domain present in this Cas9. This is the Cas9, and these two nucleotide domains are this RUVC domain and HNH domain. These two are the very critical domain for creating double-strand break. One domain make on the 3' to 5' end site, and one to 5' to 3' end site. So when this double-strand break is made, then what is the possibility? One of the possibility, if you want to create what is your objective. Suppose your objective is to knock out. When I say knockout, that means you want to disturb the function of a gene. Suppose you say this is a gene and you make a disruption here. So if you want to disturb the function of gene, what will happen? You after mutation, if you don't provide anything, then cell itself recognizes when there is double-stranded break. Okay, some mutation is some disruption in GS, so it follow the repair mechanism. So one of the common mechanism in the cell is host-mediated DNA repair mechanism, which is also known as which is mediated through non-homologous and joining method. So this non-homologous and joining method, it lead to insertion of a small nucleotide or deletion of a small nucleotide. Sorry, anything can happen. So this will lead to the formation of indel. When I say the indel, in means insertion of a nucleotide and del means deletion of some nucleotides. So when this will happen, there will be a frame shift mutation, and when there will be a frame shift mutation, a gene will be knocked out and it will be no more functional. And suppose you don't want to knock it out the gene, you want to insert particular fragment of gene or particular fragment of DNA in this particular loci. So what you do, you provide a gene segment, like suppose this is a sequence of insert which you want to insert here. So you design a vector in which you provide this sequence. Apart from that, you also provide the homology arms. What are these homology arms? These homology arms are complementary to the DNA sequence on the right and the left side of the deletion created. So what will happen when you provide this vector, it will recognize this homology arm, and through SDR, homology directed recombination. SDR means homology directed recombination. This sequence of DNA will inserted, replace, will be inserted in this double mutant, double deletion site, and you will get a knock in your sequence of interest. So this is the approach how you do knock in and knock out using CRISPR. That's very nice. We can do knock in out also. What next? How this technology can be used in plants and what revolution they have created. So to show you that, I have this small, very nice thing. So I just found that till now there are US Department of Agriculture, USDA, has approved CRISPR edited plants for potential commercial release. These are the 5 plants which have been released in the US, and that too as non-GMO, which is very critical and which is the selling point of this CRISPR-Cas9, that these are non-GMOs and very distinct from this commercial traditional transgenics, because you don't have any inserted foreign DNA elements, nothing. And what are these plants they have done? They have developed this soybean. When I talk of this soybean, it's been developed by the Plant Science Research Unit in Minnesota, and they have developed this drought and salt tolerant plant by mutating 2 genes which are RNA binding protein, and they just mutated this gene, same using CRISPR-Cas9, and they have get a very drought and salt tolerance variety. Similarly, this camelina is one of the plants used for this oil content and has a very valuable food crop. And this is basically done by Bioscience Institute in ILO Bioscience Institute in US, and this is basically a company, and they have not disclosed what target gene they have used to mutate it, which has resulted to this increased oil content, which is their proprietary, is in basically in company. So, and similarly in green Bristol grass, they have delayed flowering, which is also using gene, and Vaxicon. Vaxicon, they have increased high amylopectin, and this was done by Vaxicon is done basically by DuPont company, which is one of the prominent plant science company in biotechnology working on this CRISPR aspects, and they have done by mutating the VAX1 gene, and which has lead to high that's amylopectin content. And fifth example, I would like to give a mushroom. As you know that in market, when you buy mushroom, you must be seeing some browning effect in mushroom. You don't like it, and it's like decaying something. So these brown spots which you found in mushroom, that is basically because of PPO activity. What is PPO? Polyphenol oxygenase. Polyphenol oxidase activity. So this browning effect is because of expression of this gene. So what this work was done in University of Pennsylvania State University. They have mutated the PPO gene and through CRISPR, and they developed this white button mushroom, and it's now in the market in US. So this article about all the 5 variety which are in market and are a great boost developed by CRISPR has been published in Nature in 2018 only, and this has changed the scenario of looking at improving food crop. And this is what we can say the beauty of this CRISPR, how we can use this tool towards enhancing and addressing the problem towards malnutrition, food security, food production. So these are just 5 examples. And here you can see the list of this. In the morning only, I found one important article in Science where they have shown the list of different plants, crop, and what they are working on concepts and towards improving these food crops through CRISPR, like apple, also non-browning effect. It's already in the market. As you know, when you cut the apple and if you keep apple for some time, it will also show brown patches in it. That is also because of PPO. So that they have mutated through CRISPR, and those apple are already in the markets. So you can say about this cabbage also, improving growing pattern, coffee, corn, wine, grapes. You can say that banana. I am here, I'm going to present my work on banana, on CRISPR, of our teamwork, and how we move towards in later slides. Soya bean, potato, same browning effect, cotton, papaya, watermelon, cassava, sugar beet. So what is one of the important thing when you go for food crop improvement? One of the important aspects is, first thing, you need to generate an idea which gene you need to mutate or you need to do knock-in. That is an important, and which is known as achieving proof of concept. So to get proof of concept is one of the important aspects here. So what you want to do, and once you derive with proper proof of concept, then you can move further to development of a new variety food crops. So you can say that these non-GMO apple cleared, this is CRISPR. You can see that it's what in our Nature article there. You can say gene edited mushroom crops. This is a mushroom which I was talking, and this is basically a maize dot tolerance field which are generated. And these are editing 3 homoallele hexaploid bread confer heritable resistant to powdery mildew disease. So these are different problems, or you can say the problem which need to be addressed, and CRISPR-Cas9 is one of the vibrant tool which we can use it by finding out. So apart from that, I want to show you one of the very recent achievement by CRISPR. Very recent achievement CRISPR this. And I was so fascinated by this work, that this work is basically from the Harvard, from Cold Spring Harvard Laboratory. What they have done, they have mutated 3 key genes they have mutated. And after the mutation of these 3 key genes, they have reduced the life cycle of this plant, shortened height, compact growing of this tomato, and in one bunch, a lot of tomato with no leaves. And even with such a variety they have developed, even the scientists from NASA, they were very fascinated by this work, and they want this tomato work, they want to take it for the space mission and grow in the space. So this, I'm telling this, all those newspaper cuttings from Nature, Science, just to show that what the potential this CRISPR has and what we can do if we work properly in proper direction towards eradication of food security in India, malnutrition in India. So these are one of the important aspects which need to address. So one of the aspects I will cover here, which is CRISPR-Cas9 application fruit crop improvement. So what aspects CRISPR can do in addressing this fruit crop improvement is basically abiotic stress tolerance, biotic stress tolerance, micronutrient, seedless, reduce anti-nutrient property. And these are the important aspects which can be covered. But what are the challenges here? It's like genome sequence should be known, target effects, tissue culture development, and CRISPR delivery. These are some of the bottlenecks which people working out, come over it, and do the development of improved crop variety. So one such example, one such example here, I'm going to present our work, like about vitamin A deficiency. So as we know that vitamin A deficiency is one of the important public health concerns in about more than 122 countries, and among which India is one of the prime countries, and around 250,000 to 500,000 malnourished children go blind die within the 12 months every year. And among that, the number in 190 million children under 5A, particularly in Africa and Southeast Asia, contribute to this more, and in this India contribute around 85% cases in Southeast Asia. So I'm just presenting you this data to show you that malnutrition is one of the important problem of our society. Like you can say one of the problem which need to be addressed, and how through science we can address this problem and move ahead towards coming this problem. Like when we're talking of vitamin A deficiency, so there was a report of ICMR, you can kind of find on the website also, that what adult men and women require vitamin A. So what is around 4,800 microgram of beta carotene. What is this beta carotene? What is then, as you know, what is rhinitol? Rhinitol is nothing versus a vitamin A only. And what is this beta carotene? Beta carotene we know also called is a provitamin A. It's basically present in the plants. So this much amount of beta carotene or provitamin A a man and a woman needs. So, and what we are not getting in proper diets from our daily foods, and vitamin A we cannot synthesize by our own. We need to take from the supplement from the fruits. So this was an important challenge. And when I was working as a project scientist at Nabi DBT Institute in Chandigarh, Mohali, so we try to work on this problem. So what are these carotenoids? Carotenoids are basically synthesized by plants, some blue algae, fungi, photosynthesis bacteria, but not by animal kingdom. So what are these basic nature? These are photoprotectant, antioxidant in nature. Apart from that, these carotenoids are also known as precursor for vitamin A, and also called as known as provitamin A. And among these, alpha carotene, beta cryptoxanthins are the three important provitamin precursors. Among these, beta carotene is one of the potent provitamin A which is considered. So what was like when we take the food source from beta carotene, it go into the convert into retinol, then finally to retinol, or here it oxidized and eliminated in the system. This is how the beta carotene is converted. And so what our aspect, what we were thinking that what we can do to improve this. So yeah, so apart from that, next I will like to tell you about how this beta carotene is been, which is also known as provitamin A, is been synthesized in plant. So this is the biosynthetic pathway of this beta carotene, which is also known as provitamin A. Is basically synthesized by the precursor is provided by the MEP pathway. Those who don't know, mostly you know be knowing, then also I would like to just MEP pathway, and is basically a pathway which basically involved in synthesis of broad molecules which are known as of terpenoids, and also for hormone like gibberellin. So this pathway provide precursor known as GGP, which is known as geranyl pyrophosphate. Then it transferred to carotenoid pathway, and finally in carotenoid pathway this beta carotene, this alpha carotene, and then finally it's lead to the also channelize this to the abscisic acid. So this is one of the important pathway of beta carotene or carotenoid pathway in plant, how plants synthesize this provitamin A, and what important molecules are synthesized through this pathway. And next, so till now we have seen what is the provitamin A deficiency is one of the important concern in India, how provitamin A been synthesized by the plant. And so next question was that what to do. So how to address this problem. So we thought that that banana is an important staple food in India, and India is the largest producer of banana. India is the largest producer of banana. So biofortification of food crops such as banana will be an important step towards eradication of malnutrition from our country. As we know that banana can be easily given to the midday meal to the in our schools, and if we have increased provitamin A content in banana to such an extent that having one banana is sufficient, or maybe provide around 60 to 70% of the required provitamin A, that will be a great achievement, because rest of you can get from other fruits also. So this was a very important aspect. So we choose banana, and this why banana is a tropical plant fruit cultivated over 130 countries and is the second largest fruit after citrus. India is the largest producer and contributes 16% of the world total fruit, contributing to the 60% of world production. Fruit is available throughout the year and reasonable price, and you can say that poor man fruit, you can say an apple. And why you choose CRISPR? And because one of the important problem that banana is a parthenocarpic food. When it's a parthenocarp, so the pollination and cross pollination is an important barrier. So you cannot go through breeding to improving the banana fruit crops. Hence, the CRISPR-Cas9 is the only available approach at present which can work towards improvement of this banana fruit. So that's we decided to work on it. So first, what we did, banana is an important staple food, contributes significantly to the food security, and after rice, wheat, and corn is stand 4 in our staple food, and India ranked first. It produced around 30.47 million metric tons of banana, and it's an year-round convenience, affordability, variety, palate, nutritive, therapeutic, make it preferred food and meet the people of all the classes and ages. So that was about banana. So we now I'm just going to present what we have done. So we choose banana towards improving provitamin A content in banana using CRISPR-Cas9 genome editing approach. So first thing, when we talk about that we want to do CRISPR-Cas9 approach in banana, first thing which come into our mind to establish that technique in banana, that CRISPR-Cas9 is working fine in banana. So this is basically an approach which I have shown you. If you want to develop some food improved quality plant, how you move taking banana into account. And suppose what we have done here, if we want to increase the provitamin A content in banana, so what we will do, we will do the in silico analysis of the gene and find out what are the candidate genes which could be important for responsible for provitamin A, increased provitamin A content in banana. Then we will characterize this gene through functional complementation assay and gene expression and other construct preparation. Then we will make construct of this target, and then we transferred into the embryogenic cell suspension of banana. Then after transformation, this transformed plant ECS will be grown, and then finally the plant development will take place, which will related to cell regeneration here, then germination, then shooting, then finally rooting, and acclimatization. When plant being acclimatized, then they are put to the greenhouse, and after the greenhouse, they are transferred to our net house in Nabi, which is a very nice net house we have facility, containment facility. After that, when fruits are there, these fruits are taken out and we isolate the carotenoids and we do the quantification using HPLC. So we find to know that how much carotenoid content had been increased, and even by visually also you can see, it can give you a phenotypic character, because if more carotenoid will be there, carotenoid is basically a colored molecule, so the pigmentation of yellow will be more and you will find your banana to be more yellow. So this is also one of the phenotypic character which you can find. So this is an approach which we need to follow if you want to improve provitamin A content in banana, or it can be applicable to other plants also. So first thing, what we want to see, what the condition of banana provitamin content in Indian banana with respect to this beta carotene content, or we can call provitamin content. So we choose the 10 variety, and we find that Nandarin, which is grown in south, and it's having the high beta carotene content, and Rasthali was very poor. It's been Nandarin is basically a cooking banana. It's not a desert banana. When we're cooking banana, that's used for making chips and sabzi, what you can say. And apart from that, Grand Name is an important desert banana, and Rasthali also, which are used for, which is consumed in India. Like whatever commercial banana which you buy from the market is basically Grand Name only, which you eat, sweet banana. So you can say the beta carotene content is so less, 4.22. And if you want to increase beta carotene content in banana, and if one banana is almost around maybe 100 grams or 90 grams variation, if you consume one banana and if we increase this content to 420 or something, 40, so it will be such a boost of provitamin A, and it will it will be a great step towards removing this nutrition. So when we say there was a huge difference, so and then we decided that we will go for CRISPR to improve this. So our challenge was to establish and demonstrate that CRISPR-Cas9 is working in banana. So to establish this, we choose a target which is known as phytoene desaturase gene. So you can ask why you choose this phytoene desaturase gene. So if you want to say that whether this CRISPR is working or not, so we need that gene which has some phenotypic character. Like you mutate that gene and you can see this effect on the plant. So phytoene gene is known as a known marker gene in case of plant, is widely used. So this phytoene desaturase gene, what is do is in a carotenoid pathway, it's basically convert this phytoene and down to lycopene. When we say to lycopene, zeta carotene, then to lycopene. So this phytoene is a colorless molecule and this lycopene is a colored compound. And if you block this gene through CRISPR, so what will happen? No carotenoid will be synthesized. This pathway will be totally blocked. So it will, due to this, it will colored phytoene form. And this pathway also interact with chlorophyll A, phytoquinone. And if you block this enzyme, there will be no chlorophyll A synthesis, and plant leaf will become albino from green. So this, using this, is you can see thousands of paper using this PDS, and so we target these genes. So what was our objective? We clone this gene from banana. Then after cloning, we find out what the sequence of banana. Then we design the target like this. So what we did, we designed that block this gene. So we design the target of clone and then design the target. And after that, we transferred into the embryos of banana. Then you can see that this white embryos are there. And when we grow this plant, you can see this is control plant. And when we mutate this plant, the leaf became complete albino. This shows that our system is working fine, but it was phenotypic. So what we did, we need to confirm it, whether the mutation has happened or not. So we take a pinch of this leaf, isolated the DNA, and amplified the target region from where we have designed this sgRNA, this region. And when we clone this region and sequence it, we found that mutations. These are the different lines. You can say they are deletion, 3 deletion. There's such a big deletion here. Then there is a deletion, insertion, deletion. So these are the deletions and insertion which we found. So when we found such a deletion, this shows that our system is working fine. And further confirm that if phyto, and we know that PDS gene lead to decrease the chlorophyll A and B level. So we quantify the chlorophyll A and B levels. You can see this is the control is having so much chlorophyll level, and all other lines decrease chlorophyll A level, same in chlorophyll B level, and carotenoid content also decrease. So this work was a first report from the country, and this we published in Functional Institute of Genomics, and it was a very proud moment for us that in DST Science they recognize our work in the top 5 technologies by Indian scientists in 2018, and among top 15 this work was one of that important achievement. So we were very motivated, and now our next step that okay, now we have standardized this CRISPR-Cas editing in banana. So what next? What next was that we want to move further to increase provitamin A content. So how to do that? So we can say that this is a CRISPR-Cas9 pathway. So looking at this pathway, you may think what we should do if we want to increase this beta carotene. So you can say that this gene LCYE, if we block this gene LCYA, what will happen? If we block this gene, the carbon flux which is coming from here, or you can just a substrate flux, it will whole divert to here. So if more input will be there, the output will be the more, but logical. So it will lead to increase the beta carotene content. This we propose the path work we do. So okay, then we said, okay, then what we need to do? We need to isolate this gene from the banana, and then we need to clone it, sequence it, and see what the expression level of the gene is. So we target to knock out this gene. So what we do? We firstly clone this gene, and then see the domain analysis. Then we design the target. So this is the target for LCY which we design. And for this sgRNA, we have different promoter U3, and for Cas9 we use CAM35S. This is left and right border of agrobacterium construct. You must be knowing out that. And after designing the construct, what we do? We transfer this to the plant. As we have the well-established cell suspension system. We transfer to the cell suspension, and then we regenerate it, these plants, and then into rooting media, then this silicon plant, then plant was regenerated in hardening system, and then it would finally transfer the net house. And simultaneously, whatever lines we find, we have done the screening of CRISPR-Cas9. So we take the leaf, do the DNA isolation, and then see the target amplified. And what next? So when we amplified and done the sequencing, we found some line, and GN mean Grand 9. Grand 9 basically a commercial banana which we daily use from the market. So we found very nice mutations there. One mutation, 1, 3 base. So we are very happy, and this is the sequencing chromatograph result which showing that what are the types of mutation happening, like insertion, AG deletion, ACG deletion, GC deletion, and this is the control. So, and one of the way before going to sequencing is to check whether the mutation is happened to or not is through T7 endonuclease assay. So what is this T7 endonuclease assay? This T7 endonuclease assay cut the single strand DNA. So suppose you have a mutant line, and if you isolate that DNA from the mutant line, clone it, and then isolate the DNA from the control plant, target region, clone, and mix those two target. So, and then you denatured and anneal. So there will be formation of hairpin, because control there will be no mutation, and your target there will be, and in their mutant line there will be mutation, which you have transformed line there will be mutation. So when mutation and non-mutant line will denatured and anneal, there will be formation of hairpin loop. And when the hairpin loop is formed, this means a single stranded. So when we give the T7 endonuclease enzyme, this hairpin will break, and it will lead to the formation of 2 bands. This shows that mutation has happened. So this how one of the way using T7 endonuclease widely used in CRISPR screening. And apart from that, you can also go through restriction enzyme based checking. So after checking this, what next? We have protein analysis. We have seen mutation, what kind of mutation is having it need to a deleterious mutation, and it need to the disruption of LCY gene edited plant. And then we go for carotenoid quantification in leaf, because when plant was stopped, so you can see that in when you see the control plant, you can see the beta carotene level here, and there is high increase in beta carotene level here in comparison to control in beta carotene. Lutein, and because we have beta carotene is an important provitamin A, this is control. And in leaf it was increasing, but not too much, but it was increasing. But our main objective was not leaf. Our main objective was to see what is in fruit pulp. So we waited for the plant to grow and fruits to come, as you know, take time. So when we see the fruit pulp, you can see that there was nice yellow color you can find. So this, we are very happy that yes, finally we achieved provitamin enriched banana through CRISPR-Cas9. And when we done the HPLC of this pulp, you can see in control there was very high, very low, and in edited line very high trans beta carotene, which is also known as provitamin A, and it shows around 6-fold enhanced beta carotene content. So, and this work so what was next step? That we want to see that 6-fold increase, and then we want to see what the expression of other pathway gene. So when other pathway gene of this carotenoid, so we know DXS, DXR, PSY, and LCY, NCD. These are the carotenoid pathway genes. We see that there was a large increase in this pathway gene, which shows very significantly. But one thing was very seen, that we have seen this increase in this CCD gene, a bit increase. What is this CCD gene? It is known as carotenoid cleavage dioxygenase. What it does? So it does that, it breaks down the beta carotene. So this shows that if we have increased the beta carotene level to 100, just because of this CCD gene, the beta carotenoid is expression level has been increased to 60 only. So 40% or 30% may be less, because of CCD is decreasing that. So show the feedback regulation of CCO affect the carotenoid turnover. This was one of our assumption which need to be validated, and we further work on this. And I'm not showing this presentation, otherwise it will become a very lengthy presentation. So this was also important work done by me in context of this CCO. And then what we have done, that we have seen, okay, you have got on a beta enriched banana. So you need to also go for all those morphological data, that fruit length with respect to control are okay, fruit diameter is okay, number of hands, plant height, and number of fingers, this one banana, and fruit weight, everything is fine. So it was saying that it was fine, and now our next step is to the field trial, and that's all things will be going on. So this work was was published in Metabolic Engineering, which is one of the prestigious journal in science field. Is around 8 impact factor, and we were very happy about that. And in summary, I want to say that to all the student here, that yeah, this CRISPR-Cas9 is very fascinating. If you want to pursue career in molecular biologist and towards crop, I will say this is you will love this CRISPR. And through this CRISPR, we are just trying to address the problem of malnutrition in our country. And yeah, we established CRISPR-Cas9 in banana, and then further improving the provitamin A by mutating this LCY gene. And we also find one of the parameter like CCO, which we are working, that which may feedback regulate. So CRISPR-Cas9 could be a very potent game changer in context to food crops. And this I would also recommend this one of the important book chapter in CRISPR-Cas9 and elsewhere you can find it, where we have given a wide idea about what can be the possible target in other food crops which can be looked about this CRISPR. But at last, I would like to you all visualize the team involved in this work. So this is basically our team. You can see the pro-vitamin enriched banana. This is that's Dr. Siddharth Tiwari, our project PI, and these are PhD students there. And so that's all from my side. And hope you like it. And I'm open for your comments and your queries. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Praveen, for the informative session.
Yeah.
Hope everyone must have been benefited by your research work, which was deeply explained and elaborated.
Yeah.
So now it's time for taking some questions. There are questions like first question is from Abhishek.
Yeah.
Is that soybean alternative of Roundup ready soybean for glyphosate resistance?
I didn't find much about that work, but yeah, you can see. I am not much about into this soybean, what he's saying, but yeah, it need to be seen. I'm not aware about that work, whether someone is working on that aspects or not. In using
Okay.
CRISPR.
Right. Sudha is asking a question like, in these crops, which technique is used? Knockout or knock-in?
Knockout. Actually, we knock out the technique. Knockout means we will disturb the function of gene, and then the flux will be transferred towards carotenoid, and it will enrich the protein content.
Okay. Bhavani has asked a question. Is it possible to increase nutritional and shelf life of fruits and vegetable by knockout and knock-in?
Yeah. That's very interesting question. Actually, in banana, is shelf life is a very important problem. Like a banana, if you kept after 10-15 days, it start decaying. So we were addressing that work also. Actually, that work is already in pipeline. I've done some work, and it's all going. We have find out some target, and most probably in future we will try to increase the shelf life of banana at least maybe 20 days or something. So we have found some good targets there, and then I just moved to Czech Republic. So that work is carried out by the other guys. And here also I'm just working on CRISPR only. There's some different plants. Okay.
Yeah. Sneha has asked a question like, what is the epigenetic effect after the knockout and knock-in? Is any aspect available on genome-wide methylation and demethylation after such modifications on any food crop?
No, till date there's no report. And one of the important thing that this CRISPR is very specific. Apart from your target, it does anything to else. And apart from now, after just giving, people are just moving towards using Cas9 protein and sgRNA and just transferring into the protoplast. So it will do mutation and gone away. So it's very precise. It's very precise. You can, it's kind of very surgical and just a small cut, that's it. So till date, there's no report that is having effect on methylation genome-wide. Even in epigenetics, we are using CRISPR just to improve using CRISPR-I and all those things. Yeah.
Gulnaz has asked a question like, what is the basic role of PPO gene in mushroom?
It's basically a PPO gene involved into the browning effects. It you can say that I think it's basically a polyphenol oxidase. It lead to the liberation of these polyphenols, oxidize these polyphenols, and that lead to this browning effect and decaying of then starch in plants. So that's
okay. Another question we have from Bhagyashri is CRISPR present on the DNA sequence and Cas9 on RNA of E. coli? Is this palindromic sequence inserted into a new host by gene knockout or knock-in method?
No, I think she's a bit confused. Firstly, what I've done, how CRISPR has been discovered. CRISPR is basically an immune system in E. coli or even bacteria, in which CRISPR and Cas9, both genes are in the DNA only. DNA transcribed into mRNA and then mRNA into protein, which is Cas protein. But they have used this defense system. they have engineered this gene in the plant. How they have isolated that gene from Cas9, and then SGRN they have made mechanical synthesized in the labs, and then they are using in plant. So yeah.
Okay. Another question from Abhishek is, what will be the long-term health effect of CRISPR-edited crops? What is India doing in modifying food crops using CRISPR-Cas
Yes,
technique?
that's I think in crop the first report in CRISPR is from our lab only, and apart from Nabi, I didn't find any report from CRISPR in context to plants. But yeah, people are started working, and it's gaining a lot of interest, and hopefully this is a vibrant field in Europe and US. They are working like hell. They are working like hell, and daily you will find. That's I've given an example. One of the tomato developed by this Cold Spring lab from Harvard, even with the NASA scientists was. So it was such and fascinating that they have reduced the time of that tomato plant regeneration, and in a single plant there was around 100 tomatoes. So that was really nice. Yeah. India is working, but it maybe in upcoming years we find much more people getting with good publications and good crop edited through CRISPR.
Yeah, well, there are many people, those who have asked the question, what will be the long-term health effect of CRISPR-edited crops?
I don't think so there will be, I even don't think there will be any long-term effects, because people are already eating in US, because it's a non-GMO fruit. It's not like transgenics. Like in transgenic, you have the knock it inserted there. You have a canamycin, you have a cam35s, left border, right border. Cas9, there's no such problem. It's not a transgenic. It's very much equivalent to breeding plants. Even the breeders are now incorporating these Cas9 programs, and one of the important aspects is by, I think, ICRIS is working very fine with all those things.
Okay, Pushmita has asked a question, is it feasible to use CRISPR to induce biallelic long deletions in plants?
Biallelic long deletion, yeah, long deletion you can make, and not only you can specify how much amount of deletion you need using SDR, homologous directed recombination. You can provide the arms that this much deletion we need, but if you go with knockout, you will not able to control the deletion, how long it will be. It can be 3 base pair, 4 base pair, 10 base pair, but through that by SDR you can control the amount of deletion you can make.
Okay, another question. Yeah, another question we have is from Radha. Can COVID-19 drive CRISPR diagnosis help us?
Yeah, that's nice, because already Jennifer Doudna developed this COVID-based testing in US, and after that you've also sent that in India also, in I think IGIB. They have also done developed this COVID Cas9 drive testing. Yeah, it's doable. It's doable. It's well doable. It's already you have the published protocol in the online. You can find it out there.
Second last question from Bhavani. Does this technique cause mutation in crops and lead to other effects in consumers?
No. Because when you do mutations, you need you do very specific. You need to do a lot of basic science. What you are mutating and for what purpose are you mutating, what that gene has role, or what that loci has role in genome-wide plant. When you do, because to find a target, you need to do a lot of background and intensive work study. After that, you move to CRISPR.
Okay. So a last question from Jay. Can we assume this technique using developed crop as a transgenic crop?
No. US, if you see the US guidelines, they say that CRISPR is non-GMO. And India, till now, there is no CRISPR plants, like apart from banana, which we have developed. So now they are moving towards laying down the guidelines for CRISPR-Cas9. So our team is just involved in, luckily, that's formulating the guidelines for India and CRISPR. So hopefully the guidelines in India will come soon, but in US guidelines, CRISPR is not a transgenic plant. It's a non-transgenic plant. You can do non-GMO. Okay.
So there is last question from Kavita. Let's take this one also.
Okay.
Is vitamin A banana, will malnutrition is like curse, is vitamin A banana, will this cost effective to poor people?
Whatever we are developing is not for the money, and this is basically from the government funded project. So hopefully if we get something to trials and everything's okay, it will be free for the Indian.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Praveen,
Yeah.
for being so patient and in answering all the questions. You have taken so many questions of the participants. Now I would like to request our HOD, Professor Rashmi Chandra, for vote
Yeah.
of thanks.
Thank you, Shomani. Very
Yeah.
good
Okay.
afternoon, all of you. I, Rashmi Chandra, on behalf of Biotechnology Department of IMS Engineering College, extend a very hearty vote of thanks to Dr. Praveen Awasthi for delivering a wonderful lecture on CRISPR-Cas9 mediated genome editing towards crop improvement. We are really proud that you are our alumni, and I am very sure everyone must have gained knowledge on the topic. Thanks, Praveen, for gracing us with your presence and take out your valuable time. I appreciate the delegates of different countries, students, professors, and faculty for their active participation. Also, I would like to extend my special thanks to Mr. Priranjan and Ms. Shomani Parasar for their support to arranging webinar series lectures. Last but not least, I extend my big thanks to our whole department, including our all students and each and every faculty for their support. Thanks for making this talk a successful event. Thank you all. Take care. Thank you so much. Thank you, Praveen.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.